All right, welcome back again to Health, Hygiene and Wellness. We are still discussing here about immunization and how it is important to us as human beings from the time we are born till the time that we leave this earth. I'm still having Dr. Silas Fambulwa. He's demystifying to us more about immunization. And in this second half, if we can just begin, Dr. Which are these diseases that you target while immunizing?
When we are immunizing, we categorize differently. The first group that we really target is the children, because they are the childhood diseases, and their immune system is still weak. But when a child is born below 1 year, they depend mostly on the immune system of their mother. You realize?
Through breastfeeding.
Through breastfeeding. That's why we encourage for 6 months breastfeeding, exclusive. Because when you start introducing some other new things, you're introducing diseases to this child who does not have an immune system. Barely. They don't have an immune system. So you're introducing porridge in from a very dirty cup. That dirty, I know, it should be quoted.
Yes.
I'm not saying women usually give children from dirty vessels, but at least there is always that. You know?
Bacteria availability.
As much as you try, even in the hospital, even in theater, we always try to be sterile. But there is always a microorganism that will sneak into. So you can't tell me
it's
in your
not
house
100%.
you are using soap and water. It will be 100% that there's no disease. So you are introducing disease to a child who is not prevented, who does not have an immune system. So better use exclusive breastfeeding so that the child picks up. And these immune cells that are picked from the mother, they are precursors. Precursors means, I don't know how to put a precursor. It is like a jump start for the immune system of the child. You realize? So it tells the child that there is this thing that exists. You need to be ready. For example, tetanus. For example, polio. That's why you realize the polio vaccine comes late, because the polio cells, the polio immune system for polio that was there in the mother stays up to around 18 months. So from 18 months, that's when you'll be told, go for the polio vaccine. You realize? Because the immune system that was there is still there. So breastfeed your child for 6 months first, so that the child can tap all the immune cells from you.
From the mother now?
Once they get the immune cells from the mother, they'll start introducing their immune cells from the ones they were given at birth, like even BCG, the polio, the H influenza, the pneumonia, the rotavirus vaccines. They'll now start coming in. And the other group is the old people. You realize that even when COVID came, it was affecting the old people, because when you get old, also the immune cells deteriorate. So you need to be boosted. Like you saw people being told, go for a booster vaccine for corona, because the cells get laid off, the ones that were there. So the antigen antibody reactions, now they fed off. You realize that there are no antibodies to fight the diseases. So you need to boost again with another vaccine so that you can get antibodies. And just to take you back, the way vaccines fight, it is an antigen antibody reaction. So a vaccine is like an antigen. It is introduced into the body. So it merges with the body. Whenever the body realizes there's a vaccine coming in, it's a disease. It reacts. When it reacts, it binds to the disease. It forms an antigen antibody reaction. If another organism of that nature comes to you at that time, and you realize that the body notes that it is the same as the one that I was introduced as a vaccine, it will react. Whenever it reacts, it controls the disease. But if it finds you without any already existing antibodies, you will lose your life, or maybe the disease will become very severe. So that is what happens. So for the older people, they're just, like an example is yellow fever. When you are traveling to a country, Kenya does not have yellow fever. There's just some regions that have yellow fever, like Baringo.
Yes.
There are just few regions. So when you are traveling to Tanzania, you'll be told, get a yellow fever, get the yellow card, to show that you are vaccinated of yellow fever. Because wherever you are going, there is yellow fever.
Yeah.
Or wherever you are coming
You
from,
might be at risk of yellow
you
fever.
might be at risk of. There, we were trying to develop a vaccine for malaria, but it wasn't easy because, again, malaria is like COVID. It keeps changing the variants. So you develop a vaccine for this variant, another variant comes in. So like COVID, you develop a vaccine for this variant, tomorrow there's another variant.
Actually, that was my next question, whereby I wanted to ask, why is it that there are some diseases that you develop the vaccine for it,
Yes.
and there are others that you don't? For example, we've been having HIV for a long time now, but we
Yes.
still don't have any vaccine
Any
for
vaccine.
HIV.
Yeah, viruses are difficult to make vaccines. Why? I told you in the first break. Viruses, they come to the body and they take over the DNA, the RNA. So they start replicating for themselves. So
Rapidly.
the body does not notice that this is a foreign body. You know, that's why it's called a virus. Like, for example, the virus of a computer. When it comes to your computer, it will smash everything without your computer noticing that this is not part of me. You know, it's just interacting with your documents and whatever, your files. And nobody knows that somebody came to interact with your with your files.
Yes.
So the viruses are very funny. So the body, even if you are to develop a vaccine, the body will still take it up and it will never develop an antibody reaction. Why? Because it will still notice that this is part of us. You realize. So that's why it has been difficult to develop a vaccine for HIV, because HIV, it's a virus that goes to the DNA, it multiplies at the DNA level, and the DNA only multiplies whenever it is triggered. But this one comes to trigger the DNA, the body believes it's a normal RNA, and it starts increasing the cells. That's how HIV comes in. So the body tries to fight it, but now it's the body that is multiplying it. So it's trying to fight it. That's why the white blood cells go down, but it's the body itself that is trying to
So it means that the diseases that you have come up with, the vaccines,
Yes.
are only diseases that don't their cells don't replicate.
Yeah, actually, most of the diseases that we we should be able to make vaccines for all diseases, including HIV. And there's still a lot of research going on to make, like what we did. You know, when COVID came in, all brains were put on the deck so that we can now make the vaccine. That's why we got the vaccine in a very short period, and it has been very effective. It's one of the most effective vaccines. People criticize it, but you see it brought down the COVID cases, you realize. But now for some diseases like HIV, it was difficult. TB is easier because TB is antigen-antibody reaction. It does not go to RNA. But if you realize that a virus that goes to RNA, you know, that's a very serious virus. You can create a vaccine for it, but not so easy.
Now, Dr. Let's take a look at this. I'm old as I am now.
Yeah.
I know I'm not so old,
Yeah.
but someone above 40 or 50,
Yes.
do they require any vaccine
Yeah, they do. They do require vaccines.
for this pandemic disease like COVID, or there are other diseases that they should get these vaccines?
Mostly for the pandemic diseases, and whenever they start getting old, they'll get a risk for things like TB. That's why you have even booster vaccines for TB. Yeah. There is a booster vaccine for TB. When you go to your TB when you are young, the TB vaccine, again you need to get another TB booster vaccine, although not very, very available in Kenya, but if you ask for it, you will get it. And the other vaccines like for pneumonia, H influenza, you know, you'll still get them when you are old, because you see what kills most old people is actually pneumonia. If you've been reading about most of the causes of death. So when you get a vaccine for pneumonia, a booster vaccine for pneumonia, when you are old, it is easier. Other situations where we get people getting vaccinated is the people who are on immunosuppressants, like people who take drugs for cancer. Those drugs for cancer are immunosuppressants. So when your immune system picks up, you need to get a vaccine. There are people who have been removed spleens, you know, because of injuries. Maybe they got an accident, they got a splenic rupture. Maybe others have got cancer, the spleen was removed. So if your spleen was removed, then definitely you need to get booster vaccines for some diseases.
I asked that question because there's an assumption that
Yeah.
old people, as long as you finish the 5 vaccines while you're a kid,
Yeah.
you don't need another one. You
No.
just wait for a disease, or maybe you visit a nearby hospital, you get healed, and maybe you go on and wait for God's time.
No, by the way, what protects us, there is what we call herd immunity. You know, herd immunity, it's like when you are grazing animals, you graze them in herds. You know, so when you are grazing animals in herds, you believe that all of them will come out of that herd when they are full.
They are satisfied.
Yeah, they are satisfied. Whether it was eating the grass or not, it will be satisfied. So this herd immunity means if somebody, at least many, 80% of the people are immunized, there will be no point, because you know most of these diseases are infectious. So there will be nobody there
To
who gets
infect
the
the other.
disease to infect the other. So actually these old people are moving with us because they are benefiting from the herd immunity. Actually that is what is making us to survive. But if you look at it in the other point of view, they might get the diseases. So they need to ask for those boosters.
You've talked about a mother introducing dirt or dirty stuff to the kid.
Yes.
And a question I had is that with adequate levels of hygiene, sanitation, and clean water,
Yes.
do we still have the need for vaccination?
We need to have vaccines, because research has shown that even with that, you've said it is
With adequate levels of hygiene,
sanitation,
and clean water. Yes.
Still, there is always a chance for a disease. You see, there are diseases that move like TB. It moves in the air.
Airborne.
How
It's
will you
airborne.
sanitize the air? How will you clean the air? It's difficult. So you need a vaccine. There is a disease that can be picked from the hospital. We call them nosocomial diseases. You take your child to the hospital for malaria, there's another child who has pneumonia there. The community acquired pneumonia. So when you take your child back
Community
home,
acquired.
yeah, it's called it community acquired pneumonia. So when you take your child back home, you are again back to the hospital with
Yes.
pneumonia. So there are several ways of getting diseases, both diagonally, I don't know, horizontally, vertically.
In all directions.
Yeah. So you need to get the vaccines. So we can't overemphasize that people need to take their children for vaccine. And that brings me to the point where I need to advise the viewers. I know there are so many things, you know, with the Mackenzie stories and that are going on. There are churches that discourage people from getting the vaccines. There are people who criticize vaccines, you know. They say, like when COVID came, they were saying these people want to give us COVID so that we can die. How many people have died since the vaccine came? In fact, the numbers of deaths reduced. And COVID is no longer there. That's why you and me, we are not putting on masks. Number two, there are churches that discourage people from getting vaccines.
Yes.
Completely. And they tell them, you will actually lose it. Ideally, you cannot lose it, because whenever you get the vaccines, it will protect you from the diseases. So make sure you go get the vaccines, and make sure that these people vaccinate you. Your child, because your child will blame you. You've heard stories of those people who bring on TV who their mothers neglected to take them for polio vaccines, and they are now paralyzed. So they are saying, if only my mother could have taken me for a polio vaccine, I could be walking on my toes. But right now I'm using my wheelchair because my mother never took me for a vaccine. So let us not be ignorant. Let us not follow some funny doctrines. There are doctors who have gone to school. There are nurses who have gone to school more than you are a pastor. And you need to seek the necessary advice. Even the Bible itself says, if you are knowledgeable enough, you have wisdom.
You'll not perish.
Yeah, you will not perish. So if somebody is knowledgeable, get the knowledge from that person first, before you get the information from a person who does not have that information. Then get your children vaccinated.
Daktari, before we wind up, I would like us to talk briefly about the COVID vaccine.
Yes.
How is the uptake countrywide so far?
The uptake is good, although currently now people have again stopped coming for the vaccinations. I think most people got the first vaccine, second vaccine, booster vaccines, but you need to get booster vaccine, especially this category of people. The people who are living with the non-communicable diseases like diabetes, hypertension, you need to get the vaccine. People are still dying of COVID, even now. Even now we have people in the ward with COVID. I told you there is what we call the herd immunity, whereby in the community there's nobody who is getting COVID. So you are protected. But the moment you get somebody who has COVID, that person will infect you because you never got the vaccine. So get the vaccine. I know there are people who have never gotten the vaccines completely. They have never been vaccinated.
It's true.
They just stopped. You know, they said, oh, it will cause a clot, it will cause what? But ask yourself, the percentage of people that got the vaccines is more than the people that never got the first doses, second doses. So who are we? Why don't we get the vaccines? So we are encouraging people to come for the vaccines, the booster vaccines. So the percentage of uptake is still low, but at least the stigma is now low also. People are not stigmatized because they saw how the vaccine brought changes. It brought back our lives to the normal life. If we didn't do the vaccines, we will still be on lockdown and other things.
What can you say about the uptake here in Trans Nzoia County?
In Trans Nzoia County, the uptake is good. The uptake is good. And there's also another vaccine that we are looking at it seriously. The vaccine for human papilloma virus for the young girls. I like the people of Trans Nzoia. All the children who are 10 to 14 years, girls, are being vaccinated. So if you haven't brought your child, bring your child. You are the only one remaining. I know there are already stigmas, so this child will never give birth. These vaccines have been given in Australia, Brazil, for the last 50 years. And do you think Brazil is less populated?
No. In fact, it is densely.
Yeah, it is densely populated. And the girls there were vaccinated for human papilloma virus. So it prevents cancer. It does not prevent you from getting children. Yeah.
One last question before we finish, Daktari.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the side effects of the vaccines.
Exactly.
From the ones that we've talked about, immunization, and also about COVID-19 vaccines. What can you say about the side effects?
This is what you need to expect from your child when they are vaccinated. 1, the child will develop a fever. 2, the child will develop a rash. The child might look like they are now sick. Why? Because we have what we call the live attenuated vaccines and other types of vaccines, the RNA. There are so many. It's around 10 types of vaccines. And these vaccines, whenever they enter your body will react, definitely. Because this is like a weaker strain of that disease. So whenever the body reacts, and if it reacts, the better, because you are now getting protected. The body has realized there is a problem. So you are getting protected. Now, if you get another TB infection later, the body will know that this is like what happened when I was young. So the body is protected. So you'll have a fever, you will have sometimes even shortness of breath, you might have shivers, you might have chills, you might have rashes, but it takes a few days, then it goes off. The vaccine works and ends in 21 days. I know there are people who are still coming to my clinic and telling me, since I was injected the COVID vaccine 2 years ago or 1 year ago, I still feel the pain, I still feel the fever, I still feel I'm sick. No, we are cheating ourselves. A vaccine stays in your body for not more than 21 days. That's why we are telling you, watch your body for 21 days. If there are no symptoms, continue with your life. If there are any symptoms, come to us. So those are the reactions that are there. Every vaccine, even you realize even the BCG, the one that gives us scars on the hand here.
Yes.
If you want to know if you are vaccinated, you look at a scar here. That scar comes because of a reaction of the vaccine. The skin itself reacts to that vaccine. So when the skin reacts, it gives you a scar. That scar shows that you are vaccinated. Yeah.
All right. That was straight. Maybe if you can tell us any last remarks before we wind up about immunization.
I have 2 comments. Number 1, people like running to antibiotics first. Now, running to antibiotics will make us land into problems of resistance. I would rather make sure that your child gets vaccinated when they are young than they get antibiotics when they are old. You realize. So if you have any child below 5 years, make sure, as a mother, when you get pregnant, make sure you go to the clinics so that you get the necessary vaccines that can be given. After that, when you give birth to your child, let the child get the vaccines on time, below 5 years. After 5 years, get the necessary booster vaccines. At 10 to 14 years, let the child get the human papilloma virus. Any dispensary is able to offer that free of charge. We don't pay. Maybe the hospital that people might pay is the mission hospital and the private hospital. But again, we have also capped them. It's not very expensive. It should not go more than 1,000 shillings. But why pay if you don't have money? Come to the public hospital. Let your child queue, get the vaccine, go home. It's simple.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Daktari. I think by now our viewers are informed about what they should do about immunization, how it is important to us, and I just noted that I also need a vaccine.
Yeah.
Because I thought I had forgotten about these things, but I just realized that I need one.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sparing time to discuss with us these matters. I hope we are now educated and informed. This is all we had for you today for in health, hygiene and wellness. I hope you'll be you'll stay tuned for our next episode next Monday. My name is Barasa Sayenye. I've been hosting Dr. Silas Wambulwa. Till next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.